Against Idleness and Mischief by Isaac Watts. Read for LibriVox.org by Gonzales in Cavite, Philippines. How doth the little busy bee improve each shining hour, and gather honey all the day from every opening flower? How skilfully she builds her cell, how neat she spreads the wax, and labors hard to store it well. With the sweet food she makes, in works of labor or of skill, I would be busy too, for Satan finds some mischief still for idle hands to do. In books, or work, or healthful play, let my first years be past, that I may give for every day some good account at last. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Ballad of William Sycamore by Stephen Vincent Benet. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. My father, he was a mountaineer. His fist was a knotty hammer. He was quick on his feet as a running deer, and he spoke with a Yankee stammer. My mother, she was merry and brave, and so she came to her labor with a tall green fir for her doctor grave, and a stream for her comforting neighbor. And some are wrapped in the linen fine, and some like a godling scion, but I was cradled on twigs of pine in the skin of a mountain lion. And some remember a white starched lap and a ewer with silver handles, but I remember a coonskin cap and the smell of bayberry candles. The cabin logs, with the bark still rough, and my mother who laughed at trifles, and the tall, lank visitors, brown as snuff, with their long, straight squirrel rifles. I can hear them dance like a foggy song through the deepest one of my slumbers, the fiddle squeaking the boots along, and my father calling the numbers, the quick feet shaking the puncheon floor, and the fiddle squealing and squealing till the dried herbs rattled above the door, and the dust went up to the ceiling. There are children lucky from dawn till dusk, but never a child so lucky, for I cut my teeth on Money Musk in the bloody ground of Kentucky. When I grew as tall as the Indian corn, my father had little to lend me, but he gave me his great old powder horn, and his woodsman's skill to befriend me. With a leather shirt to cover my back, and a redskin nose to unravel each forest sign, I carried my pack as far as a scout could travel, till I lost my boyhood and found my wife, a girl like a Salem clipper, a woman straight as a hunting knife, with eyes as bright as the Dipper. We cleared our camp where the buffalo feed, unheard-of streams were our flagons, and I sowed my sons like the apple seed on the trail of the western wagons. They were right tight boys, never sulky or slow, a fruitful, a goodly muster. The eldest died at the Alamo, the youngest fell with Custer. The letter that told it burned my hand, yet we smiled and said, "So be it." But I could not live when they fenced the land, for it broke my heart to see it. I saddled a red unbroken colt, and rode him into the day there, and he threw me down like a thunderbolt, then rolled on me as I lay there. The hunter's whistle hummed in my ear, as the city men tried to move me, and I died in my boots like a pioneer, with the whole wide sky above me. Now I lie in the heart of the fat black soil, like the seed of the prairie thistle. It has washed my bones with honey and oil, and picked them clean as a whistle. And my youth returns like the rains of spring, and my sons like the wild geese flying, and I lie and hear the meadow lark sing, and have much content in my dying. Go play with the towns you have built of blocks, the towns where you would have bound me. I sleep in my earth like a tired fox, and my buffalo have found me. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Concord Hymn by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Read for LibriVox.org by Bob Gonzalez, July 4th, 2012. Sung at the completion of the Battle Monument, April 19th, 1836. By the rude bridge that arched the flood, their flag to April's breeze unfurled, here once the embattled farmers stood, and fired the shot heard round the world. The foe long since in silence slept, alike the conqueror silent sleeps, and time the ruined bridge has swept down the dark stream which seaward creeps. On this green bank, by this soft stream, we set to-day a votive stone, that memory may their deed redeem, when, like our sires, our sons are gone. Spirit, that made those heroes dare to die, and leave their children free, bid time and nature gently spare the shaft we raise to them and thee. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Daffodils by William Wordsworth. Read for LibriVox.org by Ratandeep Satwant Singh. Jamshedpur, India. I wandered lonely as a cloud that floats on high o'er vales and hills, when all at once I saw a crowd, a host of golden daffodils, beside the lake, beneath the trees, fluttering and dancing in the breeze, continuous as the stars that shine and twinkle on the Milky Way. They stretched in never-ending line along the margin of a bay. 10,000 saw I at a glance, tossing their heads in sprightly dance. The waves beside them danced, but they outdid the sparkling waves in glee. A poet could not but be gay in such a jocund company. I gazed and gazed, but little thought what wealth the show to me had brought. For oft, when on my couch I lie, in vacant or in pensive mood, they flash upon the inward eye, which is the bliss of solitude. And then my heart with pleasure fills, and dances with the daffodils. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Design by Robert Frost. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I found a dimpled spider, fat and white, on a white heel-all, holding up a moth like a white piece of rigid satin cloth. Assorted characters of death and blight, mixed, ready to begin the morning rite, like the ingredients of a witch's broth. A snowdrop spider, a flower like froth, and dead wings carried like a paper kite. What had that flower to do with being white? The wayside blue and innocent heel-all. What brought the kindred spider to that height, then steered the white moth thither in the night? What but design of darkness to appall? If design govern in a thing so small. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The First Epistle of the First Book of Horace, by Alexander Pope. Read for LibriVox.org by Shawn Bayern in Tallahassee, Florida. To Lord Bolingbroke. St. John, whose love indulged my labours past, matures my present, and shall bound my last. Why will you break the Sabbath of my days, now sick alike of envy and of praise? Public too long, let me hide my age. See, modest Cibber now has left the stage. Our generals now, retired to their estates, hang their old trophies o'er the garden gates. In life's cool evening, satiate of applause, nor fond of bleeding, even in Brunswick's cause. A voice there is that whispers in my ear, 'tis reason's voice, which sometimes one can hear. Friend Pope, be prudent, let your muse take breath, and never gallop Pegasus to death, lest, stiff and stately, void of fire or force, you limp like Blackmore on a Lord Mayor's horse. Farewell then, verse and love and every toy, the rhymes and rattles of the man or boy. What right, what true, what fit we justly call, let this be all my care, for this is all, to lay this harvest up and hoard with haste what every day will want, and most the last. But ask not to what doctors I apply, sworn to no master, of no sect am I, as drives the storm at any door I knock, and house with Montaigne now, or now with Locke. Sometimes a patriot active in debate, mix with the world in battle for the state, free as young Littleton her cause pursue, still true to virtue, and as warm as true. Sometimes with Aristippus or St. Paul indulge my candour, and grow all to all. Back to my native moderation slide, and win my way by yielding to the tide. Long as to him who works for debt, the day, long as the night to her whose love's away, long as the year's dull circle seems to run when the brisk miner pants for 21, so slow the unprofitable moments roll that lock up all the functions of my soul, that keep me from myself, and still delay life's instant business to a future day. That task which, as we follow or despise, the eldest is a fool, the youngest wise, which done, the poorest can no wants endure, and which, not done, the richest must be poor. Late as it is, I put myself to school, and feel some comfort not to be a fool. Weak though I am of limb and short of sight, far from a lynx and not a giant quite, I'll do what Mead and Cheselden advise, to keep these limbs and to preserve these eyes. Not to go back is somewhat to advance, and men must walk at least before they dance. Say, does thy blood rebel, thy bosom move, with wretched avarice or as wretched love? No, there are words and spells which can control between the fits this fever of the soul. No, there are rhymes which, fresh and fresh applied, will cure the arrantest puppy of his pride. Be furious, envious, slothful, mad, or drunk, slave to a wife or vassal to a punk, a Switz, a High Dutch, or a Low Dutch bear, all that we ask is but a patient ear. 'Tis the first virtue vices to abhor, and the first wisdom to be fool no more. But to the world no bugbear is so great as want of figure and a small estate. To either India see the merchant flee, scared at the spectre of pale poverty. See him with pains of body, pangs of soul, burn through the tropics, freeze beneath the pole. Wilt thou do nothing for a nobler end? Nothing to make philosophy thy friend? To stop thy foolish views, thy long desires, and ease thy heart of all that it admires? Here wisdom calls, seek virtue first, be bold. As gold to silver, virtue is to gold. There London's voice, get money, money still, and then let virtue follow, if she will. This the saving doctrine, preached to all, from low St. James's up to high St. Paul. from him whose quill stands quivered at his ear, to him who notches sticks at Westminster. Bernard in spirit, sense, and truth abounds. Pray then, what wants he? 80,000 pounds, a pension, or such harness for a slave as Bug now has, and Darmont would have. Bernard, thou art a cit with all thy worth, but Bug and Dell, their honours, and so forth. Yet every child another song will sing. Virtue, brave boys, 'tis virtue makes a king. True conscious honour is to feel no sin. He's armed without that's innocent within. Be this thy screen, and this thy wall of brass. Compared to this, a minister is an ass. And say, to which shall our applause belong? This new court jargon, or the good old song? The modern language of corrupted peers, or what was spoke at Cressy and Poitiers? Who counsels best? Who whispers, be but great, with praise or infamy, leave that to fate. Get place and wealth, if possible, with grace. If not, by any means get wealth and place. For what, to have a box where eunuchs sing, and foremost in the circle I a king? Or he who bids thee face with steady view proud fortune, and look shallow greatness through, and, while he bids thee, sets the example too? If such a doctrine, in St. James's air, should chance to make the well-dressed rabble stare, if honest Schutz takes scandal at a spark that less admires the palace than the park, faith, I shall give the answer Reynard gave. I cannot like, dread sir, your royal cave, because I see, by all the tracks about, full many a beast goes in, but none come out. Adieu to virtue, if you're once a slave. Send her to court, you send her to her grave. Well, if a king's a lion, at the least the people are a many-headed beast. Can they direct what measures to pursue, who know themselves so little what to do? Alike in nothing but one lust of gold, just half the land would buy, and half be sold. Their country's wealth our mightier misers drain, or cross to plunder provinces, the main. The rest, some farm the poor box, some the pews. Some keep assemblies and would keep the stews. Some with fat bucks on childless dotards fawn. Some win rich widows by their chine and brawn. While with the silent growth of 10%, in dirt and darkness hundreds stink content. Of all these ways, if each pursues his own, satire be kind and let the wretch alone. But show me one who has it in his power to act consistent with himself an hour. Sir Job sailed forth the evening bright and still. No place on earth, he cried, like Greenwich Hill. Up starts a palace, lo, the obedient base slopes at its foot, the woods its sides embrace. The silver Thames reflects its marble face. Now let some whimsy, or that devil within, which guides all those who know not what they mean, but give the knight, or give his lady, spleen. Away, away, take all your scaffolds down, for snug's the word, my dear, will live in town. At amorous Flavio is the stocking thrown, that very night he longs to lie alone. The fool whose wife elopes some thrice a quarter, for matrimonial solace dies a martyr. Did ever Proteus, Merlin, any witch, transform themselves so strangely as the rich? Well, but the poor have the same itch. They change their weekly barber, weekly news, prefer a new japanner to their shoes, discharge their garrets, move their beds, and run, they know not whither, in a chaise in one. They hire their sculler, and, when once aboard, grow sick and damn the climate, like a lord. You laugh, half beau, half sloven, if I stand, my wig all powder, and all snuff my band. You laugh if coat and breeches strangely vary, white gloves, and linen, worthy Lady Mary. But when no prelate's lawn with hair shirt lined is half so incoherent as my mind, when, each opinion with the next at strife, one ebb and flow of follies all my life, I plant, root up, I build, and then confound, turn round to square, and square again to round, you never change one muscle of your face. You think this madness but a common case, nor once to chancery nor to Hales apply, yet hang your lip to see a seam awry. Careless how ill I with myself agree, kind to my dress, my figure not to me. Is this my guide, philosopher, and friend? This he who loves me and who ought to mend? Who ought to make me what he can or none, that man divine whom wisdom calls her own? Great without title, without fortune blessed, rich even when plundered, honored while oppressed, loved without youth and followed without power, at home though exiled, free though in the tower. In short, that reasoning high immortal thing, just less than Jove and much above a king, nay, half in heaven, except what's mighty odd, a fit of vapors clouds this demigod. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Horace Paraphrased by Isaac Watts. Read for LibriVox.org by Gonzales in Cavite, Philippines. There are a number of us creep into this world to eat and sleep, and know no reason why they're born, but merely to consume the corn, devour the cattle, fowl, and fish, and leave behind an empty dish. The crows and ravens do the same, unlucky birds of hateful name. Ravens or crows might fill their place, and swallow corn and carcasses. Then if their tombstone, when they die, bent thought to flatter and to lie, there's nothing better will be said, than that they've often eat all the bread, drank out the drink, and gone to bed. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
If by Christina Georgina Rossetti. Read for LibriVox.org by NoelBadrian, County Offaly, Ireland. If he would come today, 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 oh, what a day today would be! But now he's away, miles and miles away from me across the sea. Oh, little bird, flying, flying, flying to your nest in the warm west, tell him as you pass that I am dying, as you pass home to your nest. I have a sister, I have a brother, a faithful hound, a tame white dove. But I had another, once I had another, and I miss him, my love, my love. In this weary world it is so cold, while I sit here all alone. I would not like to wait and to grow old, but just to be dead and gone. Make me fair when I lie dead on my bed, fair where I am lying. Perhaps he may come and look upon me dead, he for whom I am dying. Dig my grave for two, with a stone to show it, and on the stone write my name. If he never comes, I shall never know it, but sleep on all the same. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
I wake and feel the fell of dark, not day, by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Read for LibriVox.org by Winston Tharp. I wake and feel the fell of dark, not day. What hours, oh, what black hours we have spent this night! What sights you, heart, saw, ways you went, and more must in yet longer lights delay. With witness I speak this, but where I say hours, I mean years, mean life. And my lament is cries countless, cries like dead letters sent to dearest him that lives, alas, away. I am gall, I am heartburn, God's most deep decree bitter would have me taste. My taste was me, bones built in me, flesh filled, blood brimmed the curse, self-yeast of spirit a dull dough sours. I see the lost are like this, and their scourge to be as I am mine, their sweating selves, but worse. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
A Lost Chord by Adelaide Ann Proctor. Read for LibriVox.org by NoelBadrian, County Offaly, Ireland. Seated one day at the organ, I was weary and ill at ease, and my fingers wandered idly over the noisy keys. I do not know what I was playing, or what I was dreaming then, but I struck one chord of music like the sound of a great Amen. It flooded the crimson twilight like the close of an angel's psalm, and it lay on my fevered spirit with a touch of infinite calm. It quieted pain and sorrow like love overcoming strife. It seemed the harmonious echo from our discordant life. It linked all perplexed meanings into one perfect peace, and trembled away into silence as if it were loath to cease. I have sought, but I seek it vainly, that one lost chord divine, which came from the soul of the organ and entered into mine. It may be that death's bright angel will speak in that chord again. It may be that only in heaven I shall hear that grand Amen. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Mallorcan Stories by Gertrude Stein, recorded for LibriVox.org by Kaitlyn Holz. Mallorcan Stories. Romana no snow. Maurer, see. Sun never sets. Napoleon III, Cathedral. McKinley's Eagle. Pope's prayers for peace. Pins and needles ship. Mallorcan Stories. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Ode to a Nightingale by John Keats. Read for LibriVox.org by CaprishaPage. My heart aches, and a drowsy numbness pains my sense, as though of hemlock I had drunk, or emptied some dull opiate to the drains 1 minute past, and leathwards had sunk. 'Tis not through envy of thy happy lot, but being too happy in thy happiness, that thou, light winged dryad of the trees, in some melodious plot of beechen green and shadows numberless, singest of summer in full-throated ease. Oh, for a draught of vintage that hath been cooled a long age in the deep delved earth, tasting of Flora and the country green, dance and provincial song and sunburnt mirth. Oh, for a beaker full of the warm south, full of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, with beaded bubbles winking at the brim and purple-stained mouth, that I might drink and leave the world unseen, and with thee fade away into the forest dim, fade far away, dissolve and quite forget what thou among the leaves hast never known, the weariness, the fever, and the fret here, where men sit and hear each other groan, where palsy shakes a few sad last grey hairs, where youth grows pale and spectre thin and dies, where but to think is to be full of sorrow and leaden-eyed despairs, where beauty cannot keep her lustrous eyes, or new love pineth in beyond tomorrow. Away, away, for I will fly to thee, not charioted by Bacchus and his pards, but on the viewless wings of poesy, though the dull brain perplexes and retards. Already with thee, tender is the night, and haply the queen moon is on her throne, clustered around by all her starry fays. But here there is no light, save what from heaven is with the breezes blown through verdurous glooms and winding mossy ways. I cannot see what flowers are at my feet, nor what soft incense hangs upon the boughs, but in embalmed darkness guess each sweet wherewith the seasonable month endows the grass, the thicket, and the fruit tree wild, white hawthorn, and the pastoral eglantine, fast fading violets covered up in leaves, and mid-May's eldest child, the coming musk-rose, full of dewy wine, the murmurous haunt of flies on summer eves. Darkling, I listen, and for many a time I have been half in love with easeful death, called him soft names in many a mused rhyme, to take into the air my quiet breath. Now more than ever seems it rich to die, to cease upon the midnight with no pain, while thou art pouring forth thy soul abroad in such an ecstasy. Still wouldst thou sing, and I have ears in vain, to thy high requiem become a sod. Thou wast not born for death, immortal bird, no hungry generations tread thee down. The voice I hear this passing night was heard in ancient days by emperor and clown. Perhaps the self-same song that found a path through the sad heart of Ruth, when sick for home she stood in tears amid the alien corn. The same that oft times hath charmed magic casements, opening on the foam of perilous seas, in fairylands forlorn. Forlorn, the very word is like a bell to toll me back from thee to my sole self. Adieu. The fancy cannot cheat so well as she is famed to do, deceiving elf. Adieu, adieu. Thy plaintive anthem fades past the near meadows, over the still stream, up the hillside, and now 'tis buried deep in the next valley glades. Was it a vision, or a waking dream? Fled is that music. Do I wake, or sleep? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Ode to the West Wind by Percy Bysshe Shelley. Read for LibriVox.org by CaprishaPage. 1. O wild west wind, thou breath of autumn's being, thou from whose unseen presence the leaves dead are driven like ghosts from an enchanter fleeing, yellow and black and pale and hectic red, pestilence-stricken multitudes. O thou who chariotest to their dark wintry bed the winged seeds, where they lie cold and low, each like a corpse within its grave, until thine azure sister of the spring shall blow her clarion over the dreaming earth, and fill, driving sweet buds like flocks to feed the air, with living hues and odours, plain and hill. Wild spirit, which art moving everywhere, destroyer and preserver, hear, oh hear. 2. Thou on whose stream, mid the steep sky's commotion, loose clouds like heaven's decaying leaves are shed, shook from the tangled boughs of heaven and ocean, angels of rain and lightning. There are spread on the blue surface of thine airy surge, like the bright hair uplifted from the head of some fearsome Maenad, even from the dim verge of the horizon to the zenith's height, the locks of the approaching storm. Thou dirge of the dying year, to which this closing night will be the dome of a vast sepulchre, vaulted with all thy congregated might of vapours, from whose solid atmosphere black rain and fire and hail will burst. O hear! 3. Thou who didst waken from his summer dreams the blue Mediterranean, where he lay, lulled by the coil of his crystalline streams, beside the pumice island in Bayes Bay, and saw in sleep old palaces and towers quivering within the waves' intenser day, all overgrown with azure moss and flowers so sweet the sense faints picturing them. Thou from whose path the Atlantic's level powers cleave them into chasms, while far below the sea blooms and the oozy woods which wear the sapless foliage of the ocean know thy voice, and suddenly grow grey with fear, and tremble and despoil themselves. O hear! 4. If I were a dead leaf thou mayest bear, if I were a swift cloud to fly with thee, a wave to pant beneath thy power and share the impulse of thy strength, only less free than thou, O uncontrollable, if even I were as in my boyhood, and could be the comrade of thy wanderings over heaven, as then when to outship thy skyey speed scarce seemed division, I would ne'er have striven as thus with thee in prayer in my sore need. O lift me as a wave, a leaf, a cloud. I fall upon the thorns of life, I bleed. A heavy weight of hours has chained and bowed one too like thee, tameless and swift and proud. 5. Make me thy lyre, even as the forest is. What if my leaves are falling like its own? The tumult of thy mighty harmonies will take from both a deep autumnal tone, sweet though in sadness. Be thou, spirit fierce, my spirit. Be thou me, impetuous one. Drive my dead thoughts over the universe, like withered leaves, to quicken a new birth. And by the incantation of this verse, scatter, as from an inextinguished hearth ashes and sparks, my words among mankind. Be through my lips to unawakened earth the trumpet of a prophecy. O wind, if winter comes, can spring be far behind? End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Plea of the Simla Dancers by Rudyard Kipling. Read for LibriVox.org by Cynthia Moyer. Too late, alas, the song to remedy the wrong. The rooms are taken from us, swept and garnished for their fate. But these tear-besprinkled pages shall attest to future ages that we cried against the crime of it. Too late, alas, too late. What have we ever done to bear this grudge? Was there no room save only in Benmore for docket, duftar, and for office drudge, that you usurp our smoothest dancing floor? Must baboos do their work on polished teak? Are ballrooms fittest for the ink you spill? Was there no other cheaper house to seek? You might have left them all at Strawberry Hill. We never harmed you, innocent our guise, dainty our shining feet, our voices low, and we revolved to diverse melodies, and we were happy but a year ago. To-night the moon that watched our lightsome whiles, that beamed upon us through the deodars, is wan with gazing on official files, and desecrating desks disgust the stars. Nay, by the memory of tuneful nights, nay, by the witchery of flying feet, nay, by the glamour of foredone delights, by all things merry, musical, and meet, by wine that sparkled and by sparkling eyes, by wailing waltz, by reckless galop's strain, by dim verandas and by soft replies, give us our ravished ballroom back again. Or hearken to the curse we lay on you. The ghosts of waltzes shall perplex your brain, and murmurs of past merriment pursue your wildered clerks, that they indite in vain. And when you count your poor provincial millions, the only figures that your pen shall frame shall be the figures of dear, dear cotillions danced out in tumult long before you came. Yea, seesaw shall upset your estimates, dream faces shall your heavy heads bemuse, because your hand unheeding desecrates our temple, fit for higher, worthier use. And all the long verandas, eloquent with echoes of a score of Simla years, shall plague you with unbidden sentiment, babbling of kisses, laughter, love, and tears. So shall you mazed amid old memories stand, so shall you toil, and shall accomplish naught, and ever in your ears a phantom band shall blare away the staid official thought. Wherefore, and ere this awful curse be spoken, cast out your swarthy sacrilegious train, and give, ere dancing cease and hearts be broken, give us our ravished ballroom back again. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Renunciation by William Butler Yeats, read for LibriVox.org by Casper Nijssen. Some may have blamed you that you took away the verses that could move them, on the day when, the ears being deafened, the sight of the eyes blind with lightning, you went from me, and I could find nothing to make a song about but kings, helmets, and swords, and half-forgotten things that were like memories of you. But now we'll out, for the world lives as long ago, and while we're in our laughing, weeping fit, hurl helmets, crowns, and swords into the pit. But, dear, cling close to me. Since you are gone, my barren thoughts have chilled me to the bone. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain. Of Renunciation by Charles Williams, read for LibriVox.org by Casper Nijssen. Never to seek her eyes with mine, to touch never, with communing of joy or fear, her yielding hands of presence. But, so dear as needs is all her beauty, by so much to hold it alien from me, think it such as should dismay the lover who draws near to his pale mistress on her flower-strewn bier. Such as no strong arm, no loose hand can clutch. It may be that a little memory of meetings and of partings shall be kept amid more great remembrance in her heart. This is a secret thing, but as for me, there shall be lost no thought of her, except all love of God and of this world depart. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Resolve by Mary Lady Chudley, read for LibriVox.org by Martin Geeson, in Hazelmere, Surrey. For what the world admires I'll wish no more, nor court that airy nothing of a name. Such flitting shadows let the proud adore, let them be suppliants for an empty fame. If reason rules within, and keeps the throne, while the inferior faculties obey, and all her laws without reluctance own, accounting none more fit, more just than they. If virtue my free soul unsullied keeps, exempting it from passion and from stain, if no black guilty thoughts disturb my sleeps, and no past crimes my vexed remembrance pain, if, though I pleasure find in living here, I yet can look on death without surprise, if I've a soul above the reach of fear, and which will nothing mean or sordid prize, a soul which cannot be depressed by grief, nor too much raised by the sublimest joy, which can, when troubled, give itself relief, and to advantage all its thoughts employ, then am I happy in my humble state, although not crowned with glory nor with bays. A mind that triumphs over vice and fate esteems it mean to court the world for praise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Sea Lullaby by Eleanor Wiley. Read for LibriVox.org by Leonard Wilson of Springfield, Ohio. The old moon is tarnished with smoke of the flood. The dead leaves are varnished with color like blood. A treacherous smiler with teeth white as milk, a savage beguiler in sheathings of silk, the sea creeps to pillage, she leaps on her prey. A child of the village was murdered today. She came up to meet him in a smooth golden cloak. She choked him and beat him to death for a joke. Her bright locks were tangled, she shouted for joy. With one hand she strangled a strong little boy. Now in silence she lingers beside him all night, to wash her long fingers in silvery light. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
The Sycamores by John Greenleaf Whittier. Read for LibriVox.org by Cynthia Moyer. In the outskirts of the village, on the river's winding shores, stand the occidental plane trees, stand the ancient sycamores. One long century hath been numbered, and another halfway told, since the rustic Irish gleeman broke for them the virgin mould. Deftly set to Celtic music, at his violin's sound they grew, through the moonlit eves of summer, making Amphion's fable true. Rise again, thou poor Hugh Tallant, pass in Erkin green along, with thy eyes brim full of laughter, and thy mouth as full of song. Pioneer of Erin's outcasts, with his fiddle and his pack, little dreamed the village Saxons of the myriads at his back. How he wrought with spade and fiddle, delved by day and sang by night, with a hand that never wearied, and a heart forever light. Still the gay tradition mingles with a record grave and drear, like the rollic air of Cluny with the solemn march of Mere. When the box tree, white with blossoms, made the sweet May woodlands glad, and the Aronia by the river lighted up the swarming shad, and the bulging nets swept shoreward with their silver-sided haul, midst the shouts of dripping fishers, he was merriest of them all. When among the jovial huskers Love stole in at labour's side, with the lusty airs of England soft his Celtic measures vied, songs of love and wailing like wake, and the merry fair's carouse of the wild red fox of Erin, and the woman of 3 cows. By the blazing hearths of winter pleasant seemed his simple tales, midst the grimmer Yorkshire legends and the mountain myths of Wales. How the souls in purgatory scrambled up from fate forlorn on St. Kevin's sackcloth ladder, slyly hitched to Satan's horn. Of the fiddler who at Tara played all night to ghosts of kings, of the brown dwarfs and the fairies dancing in their moorland rings. Jolliest of our birds of singing, best he loved the bobolink. Hush, he'd say, the tipsy fairies, hear the little folks in drink. Merry-faced with spade and fiddle, singing through the ancient town, only this of poor Hugh Tallant hath tradition handed down. Not a stone his grave discloses, but if yet his spirit walks, 'tis beneath the trees he planted, and when Bobolink talks. Green memorials of the gleeman, linking still the river shores, with their shadows cast by sunset, stand Hugh Tallant's sycamores. When the father of his country through the Northland riding came, and the roofs were starred with banners, and the steeples rang acclaim, when each war-scarred continental, leaving smithy, mill, and farm, waved his rusted sword in welcome, and shot off his old king's arm, slowly past that august presence down the thronged and shouting street, village girls as white as angels scattering flowers around his feet. Midway, where the plane tree's shadow deepest fell, his rein he drew. On his stately head uncovered, cool and soft the west wind blew. And he stood up in his stirrups, looking up and looking down, on the hills of gold and silver rimming round the little town, on the river full of sunshine to the lap of greenest vales, winding down from wooded headlands, willow-skirted, white with sails. And he said, the landscape sweeping slowly with his ungloved hand, I have seen no prospect fairer in this goodly eastern land. Then the bugles of his escort stirred to life the cavalcade, and that head, so bare and stately, vanished down the depths of shade. Ever since, in town and farmhouse, life has had its ebb and flow. Thrice hath passed the human harvest to its garner green and low. But the trees the gleeman planted through the changes changeless stand, as the marble calm of Tadmor mocks the desert's shifting sand. Still the level moon at rising silvers o'er each stately shaft, still beneath them, half in shadow, singing, glides the pleasure craft. Still beneath them, arm enfolded, love and youth together stray, while as heart to heart beats faster, more and more their feet delay. where the ancient cobbler Kesar on the open hillside justice wrought, singing as he drew his stitches, songs his German masters taught, singing with his grey hair floating round a rosy ample face. Now 1,000 Saxon craftsmen stitch and hammer in his place. All the pastoral lanes so grassy now are traffic's dusty streets. From the village, grown a city, fast the rural grace retreats. But still, green and tall and stately, on the river's winding shores, stand the occidental plane trees, stand Hugh Tallant's sycamores. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Universal Prayer by Alexander Pope. Read for LibriVox.org by Shawn Bayern in Tallahassee, Florida. Deo Optimo Maximo. Father of all, in every age, in every clime adored, by saint, by savage, and by sage, Jehovah, Jove, or Lord. Thou great first cause, least understood, who all my sense confined, to know but this, that thou art good, and that myself am blind, yet gave me in this dark estate to see the good from ill, and binding nature fast in fate, left free the human will. What conscience dictates to be done, or warns me not to do, this teach me more than hell to shun, that more than heaven pursue. What blessings thy free bounty gives, let me not cast away, for God is paid when man receives, to enjoy is to obey. Yet not to earth's contracted span thy goodness let me bound, or think thee Lord alone of man, when 1,000 worlds are round. Let not this weak unknowing hand presume thy bolts to throw, and deal damnation round the land on each I judge thy foe. If I am right, thy grace impart, still in the right to stay. If I am wrong, O teach my heart to find that better way. Save me alike from foolish pride, or impious discontent, at aught thy wisdom has denied, or aught thy goodness lent. Teach me to feel another's woe, to hide the fault I see, that mercy I to others show, that mercy show to me. Mean though I am, not wholly so, since quickened by thy breath, O lead me wheresoe'er I go, through this day's life or death. This day be bread and peace my lot, all else beneath the sun, thou know'st if best bestowed or not, and let thy will be done. To thee whose temple is all space, whose altar earth, sea, skies, one chorus let all being raise, all nature's incense rise. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Upon Appleton House by Andrew Marvell. Read for LibriVox.org by Jason Mills.
Upon Appleton House, to my Lord Fairfax, by Andrew Marvell. Within this sober frame expect work of no foreign architect, that unto caves the quarries drew, and forests did to pastures hew, who of his great design in pain did for a model vault his brain, whose columns should so high be raised to arch the brows that on them gazed. Why should of all things man unruled such unproportioned dwellings build? The beasts are by their dens expressed, and birds contrive an equal nest. The low-roofed tortoises do dwell in cases fit of tortoise shell. No creature loves an empty space, their bodies measure out their place. But he, superfluously spread, demands more room alive than dead, and in his hollow palace goes, where winds, as he, themselves may lose. What need of all this marble crust, t'impark the wanton moles of dust, that thinks by breadth though the world t'unite, though the first builders failed in height? But all things are composed here, like nature, orderly and near, in which we the dimensions find of that more sober age and mind, when larger sized men did stoop to enter at a narrow loop, as practising in doors so strait, to strain themselves through heaven's gate. And surely when the after age shall hither come in pilgrimage, these sacred places to adore, by Vere and Fairfax trod before, men will dispute how their extent within such dwarfish confines went, and some will smile at this, as well as Romulus his bee-like cell. Humility alone designs those short but admirable lines, by which, ungirt and unconstrained, things greater are in less contained. Let others vainly strive t'imure the circle in the quadrature, these holy mathematics can in every figure equal man. Yet thus the laden house does sweat, and scarce endures the master great. But where he comes the swelling hall stirs, and the square grows spherical, more by his magnitude distressed, than he is by its straightness pressed. And too officiously it slights that in itself which him delights. So honour better lowness bears, than that unwonted greatness wears. Height with a certain grace does bend, but low things clownishly ascend. And yet what needs there here excuse, where everything does answer use? Where neatness nothing can condemn, nor pride invent what to contemn. A stately frontispiece of poor adorns without the open door, nor less the rooms within commends daily new furniture of friends. The house was built upon the place only as for a mark of grace, and for an inn to entertain its lord a while, but not remain. Him Bishop's Hill or Denton may, or Bilborough better hold than they, but nature here hath been so free, as if she said, leave this to me. Art would more neatly have defaced what she had laid so sweetly waste, in fragrant gardens, shady woods, deep meadows, and transparent floods. While with slow eyes we thee survey, and on each pleasant footstep stay, we opportunely may relate the progress of this house's fate. A nunnery first gave it birth, for virgin buildings oft brought forth, and all that neighbour ruin shows the quarries whence this dwelling rose. Near to this gloomy cloister's gate there dwelt the blooming virgin Thwaites, fair beyond measure, and an air which might deformity make fair. And oft she spent the summer suns discoursing with the subtle nuns, whence in these words one to her weaved, as 'twere by chance, thoughts long conceived. Within this holy leisure we live innocently, as you see. These walls restrain the world without, but hedge our liberty about. These bars enclose the wider den of those wild creatures called men. The cloister outward shuts its gates, and from us locks on them the grates. Here we in shining armour white like virgin Amazons do fight, and our chaste lamps we hourly trim, lest the great bridegroom find them dim. Our orient breaths perfumed are with incense of incessant prayer, and holy water of our tears most strangely our complexion clears. Not tears of grief, but such as those with which calm pleasure overflows, or pity, when we look on you that live without this happy vow. How should we grieve that must be seen each one a spouse, and each a queen, and can in heaven hence behold our brighter robes and crowns of gold? When we have prayed all our beads, some one the holy legend reads, while all the rest with needles paint the face and graces of the saint. But what the linen can't receive, they in their lives do interweave. This work the saints best represents, that serves for altars' ornaments. But much it to our work would add, if here your hand, your face we had. By it we would our Lady touch, yet thus she you resembles much. Some of your features as we sewed, through every shrine should be bestowed, and in one beauty we would take enough 1,000 saints to make. And, for I dare not quench the fire that me does for your good inspire, 'twere sacrilege a man t'admit to holy things for heaven fit. I see the angels in a crown on you the lilies showering down, and round about your glory breaks that something more than human speaks. All beauty, when at such a height, is so already consecrate, Fairfax I know, and long ere this have marked the youth and what he is. But can he such a rival seem, for whom you heaven should disesteem? Ah, no, and 'twould more honour prove he your devoto were than love. Here live beloved and obeyed, each one your sister, each your maid, and if our rule seem strictly penned, the rule itself to you shall bend. Our abbess too, now far in age, doth your succession near presage. How soft the yoke on us would lie, might such fair hands as yours it tie. Your voice, the sweetest of the choir, shall draw heaven nearer, raise us higher, and your example, if our head, will soon us to perfection lead. Those virtues to us all so dear will straight grow sanctity when here, and that once sprung increase so fast, till miracles it work at last. Nor is our order yet so nice delight to banish as a vice. Here pleasure piety doth meet, one perfecting the other sweet. So through the mortal fruit we boil the sugar's uncorrupting oil, and that which perished while we pull is thus preserved clear and full. For such indeed are all our arts, still handling nature's finest parts. Flowers dress the altars, for the clothes the sea-born amber we compose. Balms for the grieved we draw, and pastes we mould as baits for curious tastes. What need is here of man, unless these as sweet sins we should confess? Each night among us to your side appoint a fresh and virgin bride, whom if our Lord at midnight find, yet neither should be left behind. Where you may lie as chaste in bed as pearls together billeted, all night embracing arm in arm, like crystal pure with cotton warm. But what is this to all the store of joys you see, and may make more? Try but a while if you be wise, the trial neither costs nor ties. Now Fairfax seek her promised faith, religion that dispensed hath, which she henceforward does begin, the nun's smooth tongue has sucked her in. Oft, though he knew it was in vain, yet would he valiantly complain, is this that sanctity so great, an art by which you finally cheat? Hypocrite witches, hence avaunt, who though in prison yet enchant. Death only can such thieves make fast, as rob though in the dungeon cast. Were there but, when this house was made, one stone that a just hand had laid, it must have fallen upon her head, who first thee from thy faith misled. And yet, how well soever meant, with them 'twould soon grow fraudulent, for like themselves they alter all, and vice infects the very wall. But sure those buildings last not long, founded by folly, kept by wrong. I know what fruit their gardens yield, when they it think by night concealed. Fly from their vices, 'tis thy state, not thee, that they would consecrate. Fly from their ruin, how I fear, though guiltless, lest thou perish there. What should he do? He would respect religion, but not right neglect. For first religion taught him right, and dazzled not, but cleared his sight. Sometimes resolved his sword he draws, but reverenceth then the laws. For justice still that courage led, first from a judge, then soldier bred. Small honour would be in the storm. The court him grants the lawful form, which licensed either peace or force to hinder the unjust divorce. Yet still the nuns his right debarred, standing upon their holy guard. Ill-counselled women, do you know whom you resist, or what you do? Is not this he whose offspring fierce shall fight through all the universe, and with successive valour try France, Poland, either Germany, till one as long since prophesied his horse through conquered Britain ride? Yet against fate his spouse they kept, and the great race would intercept. Some to the breach against their foes their wooden saints in vain oppose. Another bolder stands at push with their old holy water brush, while the disjointed abbess threads the jingling chain-shot of her beads. But their loudest cannon were their lungs, and sharpest weapons were their tongues. But, waving these aside like flies, young Fairfax through the wall does rise. Then th' unfrequented vault appeared, and superstitions vainly feared. The relics false were set to view, only the jewels there were true. but truly bright and holy thwaits that weeping at the altar waits. But that lad youth away her bears, and to the nuns bequeaths her tears, who guiltily their prize bemoan, like gypsies that a child hath stol'n. Thenceforth, as when th' enchantment ends, the castle vanishes or rends, the wasting cloister with the rest was in one instant dispossessed. At the demolishing this seat to Fairfax fell as by a sheet, and what both nuns and founders willed, 'tis likely better thus fulfilled. For if the Virgin proved not theirs, the cloister yet remained hers, though many a nun there made her vow 'twas no religious house till now. From that blest bed the hero came, whom France and Poland yet does fame, who, when retired here to peace, his warlike studies could not cease, but laid these gardens out in sport, in the just figure of a fort, and with 5 bastions it did fence, as aiming one for every sense. When in the east the morning ray hangs out the colours of the day, the bee through these known alleys hums, beating the Dian with its drums. Then flowers their drowsy eyelids raise, their silken ensigns each displays, and dries its pan yet dank with dew, and fills its flask with odours new. These, as their governor goes by, in fragrant volleys they let fly, and to salute their governess, again as great a charge they press. None for the virgin nymph, for she seems with the flowers a flower to be, and thinks so still, though not compare with breath so sweet, or cheek so fair. Well shot, ye firemen! Oh, how sweet and round your equal fires do meet, whose shrill report no ear can tell, but echoes to the eye and smell. See how the flowers as at parade under their colours stand displayed, each regiment in order grows, that of the tulip, pink and rose. But when the vigilant patrol of stars walks round about the pole, their leaves, that to the stalks are curled, seem to their staves the ensigns furled. Then in some flower's beloved hut each bee as sentinel is shut, and sleeps so too, but if once stirred, she runs you through, nor asks the word. O thou, that dear and happy isle, the garden of the world erewhile, thou paradise of 4 seas, which heaven planted us to please, but to exclude the world did guard with watery, if not flaming sword, what luckless apple did we taste, to make us mortal, and thee waste? Unhappy, shall we never more that sweet militia restore, when gardens only had their towers, and all the garrisons were flowers? When roses only arms might bear, and men did rosy garlands wear? Tulips, in several colours barred, were then the Switzers of our guard. The gardener had the soldier's place, and his more gentle forts did trace. The nursery of all things green was then the only magazine. The winter quarters were the stoves, where he the tender plants removes. But war all this doth overgrow, we ordnance plant, and powder sow. And yet there walks one on the sod, who, had it pleased him and God, might once have made our gardens spring fresh as his own, and flourishing. But he preferred to the Cinque Ports these 5 imaginary forts, and in those half-dry trenches spanned power which the ocean might command. For he did with his utmost skill ambition weed, but conscience till. Conscience, that heaven-nursed plant which most our earthly gardens want. A prickling leaf it bears, and such as that which shrinks at every touch, but flowers eternal and divine, that in the crowns of saints do shine. The sight does from these bastions ply th'invisible artillery, and at proud Cawood Castle seems to point the battery of its beams, as if it quarrelled in the seat th'ambition of its prelate great, but o'er the meads below it plays, or innocently seems to gaze. And now to the abyss I pass of that unfathomable grass, where men like grasshoppers appear, but grasshoppers are giants there. They in their squeaking laugh contemn us as we walk more low than them, and from the precipices tall of the green spires to us do call. To see men through this meadow dive, we wonder how they rise alive, as under water none does know whether he fall through it or go. But as the mariners that sound and show upon their lead the ground, they bring up flowers so to be seen, and prove they've at the bottom been. No scene that turns with engines strange does oftener than these meadows change. For when the sun the grass hath vexed, the tawny mowers enter next, who seem like Israelites to be, walking on foot through a green sea. To them the grassy deeps divide, and crowd a lane to either side. With whistling scythe and elbow strong these massacre the grass along, while one, unknowing, carves the rail, whose yet unfeathered quills her fail. The edge all bloody from its breast he draws, and does his stroke detest, fearing the flesh untimely mowed, to him a fate as black forebode. But bloody Thestylus, that waits to bring the mowing camp their cates, greedy as kites has trussed it up, and forthwith means on it to sup. When on another quick she lights, and cries, he called us Israelites. But now, to make his saying true, rails rain for quails, for manna dew. Unhappy birds, what does it boot to build below the grass's root, when lowness is unsafe as height, and chance o'ertakes what scapeth spite? And now your orphan parents' call sounds your untimely funeral. Death trumpets creak in such a note, and 'tis the sourdine in their throat. Or sooner hatch, or higher build, the mower now commands the field, in whose new traverse seemeth wrought a camp of battail newly fought, where, as the meads with hay, the plain lies quilted o'er with bodies slain. The women that with forks it fling do represent the pillaging. And now the careless victors play, dancing the triumphs of the hay, where every mower's wholesome heat smells like an Alexander's sweat. Their females fragrant as the mead, which they in fairy circles tread, when at their dances' end they kiss, their new-made hay not sweeter is. When after this 'tis piled in cocks, like a calm sea it shows the rocks. We, wondering in the river near how boats among them safely steer. Or like the desert Memphis sand, short pyramids of hay do stand, and such the Roman camps do rise in hills for soldiers' obsequies. This scene again withdrawing brings a new and empty face of things, a levelled space as smooth and plain as clothes for lily stretched to stain. The world when first created sure was such a table rase and pure, or rather such is the Toril, ere the bulls enter at Madril. For to this naked equal flat, which levellers take pattern at, the villagers in common chase their cattle, which it closer raise, and what below the scythe increased is pinched yet nearer by the breast. Such in the painted world appeared davenant with universal herd. They seem within the polished grass a landscape drawn in looking-glass, and shrunk in the huge pasture show as spots so shaped on faces do. Such fleas ere they approach the eye in multiplying glasses lie. They feed so wide, so slowly move, as constellations do above. Then to conclude these pleasant acts, Denton sets up its cataracts, and makes the meadow truly be, what it but seemed before, a sea. For, jealous of its lord's long stay, it tries t'invite him thus away. The river in itself is drowned, and isles th' astonish cattle around. Let others tell the paradox, how eels now bellow in the ox, how horses at their tails do kick, turned as they hang to leeches quick, how boats can over bridges sail, and fishes do the stables scale, how salmon trespassing are found, and pikes are taken in the pound. But I, retiring from the flood, take sanctuary in the wood, and while it lasts myself embark in this yet green, yet growing ark, where the first carpenter might best fit timber for his keel have pressed, and where all creatures might have shares, although in armies, not in pairs. The double wood of ancient stocks, linked in so thick an union locks, it like two pedigrees appears, on one hand Fairfax, th'other Veers, of whom though many fell in war, yet more to heaven shooting are, and as they nature's cradle decked, will in green age her hearse expect. When first the eye this forest sees, It seems indeed as wood, not trees, as if their neighbourhood so old to one great trunk them all did mould. There the huge bulk takes place as meant to thrust up a fifth element, and stretches still so closely wedged as if the night within were hedged. Dark all without it knits, within it opens passable and thin, and in as loose an order grows as the Corinthian porticos. The arching boughs unite between the columns of the temple green, and underneath the winged choirs echo about their tuned fires. The nightingale does here make choice to sing the trials of her voice. Low shrubs she sits in, and adorns with music high the squatted thorns. But highest oaks stoop down to hear, and listening elders prick the ear. The thorn, lest it should hurt her, draws within the skin its shrunken claws. But I have for my music found a sadder yet more pleasing sound. The stock doves, whose fair necks are graced with nuptial rings, their ensigns chaste. Yet always for some cause unknown, sad pair unto the elms they moan. Oh, why should such a couple mourn, that in so equal flames do burn? Then, as I careless on the bed of gelid strawberries do tread, and through the hazels thick espy the hatching thrastle's shining eye, the heron from the ashes top the eldest of its young lets drop, as if it stork-like did pretend that tribute to its lord to send. But most the Hewell's wonders are, who here has the holt-fester's care. He walks still upright from the root, measuring the timber with his foot, and all the way to keep it clean doth from the bark the wood-moths glean. He with his beak examines well which fit to stand, and which to fell. The good he numbers up, and hacks as if he marked them with the axe. But where he, tinkling with his beak, does find the hollow oak to speak, that for his building he designs, and through the tainted side he mines. Who could have thought the tallest oak should fall by such a feeble stroke? Nor would it, had the tree not fed a traitor worm within it bred, as first our flesh corrupt within tempts impotent and bashful sin. And yet that worm triumphs not long, but serves to feed the Hewell's young, while the oak seems to fall content, viewing the treason's punishment. Thus I, easy philosopher, among the birds and trees confer, and little now to make me wants or of the fowls or of the plants. Give me but wings as they, and I straight floating on the air shall fly. Or turn me but, and you shall see I was but an inverted tree. Already I begin to call in their most learned original, and where I language want, my signs the bird upon the bough divines, and more attentive there doth sit, than if she were with lime twigs knit. No leaf does tremble in the wind, which I returning cannot find. Out of these scattered Sibyl's leaves strange prophecies my fancy weaves, and in one history consumes, like Mexique paintings, all the plumes. What Rome, Greece, Palestine e'er said, I in this light mosaic read. Thrice happy he, who, not mistook, hath read in nature's mystic book. And see how chance's better wit could with a mask my studies hit. The oak leaves me embroider all, between which caterpillars crawl, and ivy with familiar trails me licks and clasps and curls and hails. Under this antic cope I move, like some great prelate of the grove. Then languishing with ease I toss on pallets swoln of velvet moss, while the wind, cooling through the boughs, flatters with air my panting brows. Thanks for my rest, ye mossy banks, and unto you, cool zephyrs, thanks, who as my hair my thoughts too shed, and winnow from the chaff my head. How safe, methinks, and strong behind these trees have I encamped my mind, where beauty, aiming at the heart, bends in some tree its useless dart, and where the world no certain shot can make, or me it toucheth not, but I on it securely play, and gall its horsemen all the day. Bind me, ye woodbines, in your twines, curl me about, ye gadding vines, and oh, so close your circles lace, that I may never leave this place. But lest your fetters prove too weak, ere I your silken bondage break, do you, O brambles, chain me too, and courteous briars nail me through. Here in the morning tie my chain, where the two woods have made a lane, while like a guard on either side the trees before their lord divide. This like a long and equal thread betwixt two labyrinths does lead, but where the floods did lately drown, there at the evening stake me down. For now the waves are fallen and dried, and now the meadows fresher dyed, whose grass with moister colour dashed seems as green silks but newly washed. No serpent new nor crocodile remains behind our little Nile, unless itself you will mistake among these meads the only snake. See in what wanton harmless folds it everywhere the meadow holds, and its yet muddy back doth lick till as a crystal mirror slick, where all things gaze themselves and doubt if they be in it or without, and for his shade which therein shines, Narcissus-like the sun too pines. Oh, what a pleasure 'tis to hedge my temples here with heavy sedge, abandoning my lazy side, stretched as a bank unto the tide, or to suspend my sliding foot on the osier's undermined root, and in its branches tough to hang, while at my lines the fishes twang. But now away my hooks, my quills, and angles idle utensils, the young Maria walks to-night. Hide, trifling youth, thy pleasures slight. 'Twere shame that such judicious eyes should with such toys a man surprise, she that already is the law of all her sex, her ages all. See how loose nature in respect to her itself doth recollect, and everything so wished and fine starts forthwith to its bonne mine. The sun himself, of her aware, seems to descend with greater care, and lest she see him go to bed, in blushing clouds conceals his head. So when the shadows laid asleep from underneath these banks do creep, and on the river as it flows with ebon shuts begin to close, the modest halcyon comes in sight, flying betwixt the day and night, and such an horror calm and dumb admiring nature does benumb. The viscous air, where'er she fly, follows and sucks her azure dye. The jellying stream compacts below, if it might fix her shadow so. The stupid fishes hang as plain as flies in crystal o'erta'en, and men the silent scene assist, charmed with the sapphire winged mist. Maria such, and so doth hush the world and through the evening rush. No new-born comet such a train draws through the sky, nor star new slain. For straight those giddy rockets fail, which from the putrid earth exhale. But by her flames, in heaven tried, nature is wholly vitrified. 'Tis she that to these gardens gave that wondrous beauty which they have. She straightness on the woods bestows, to her the meadows sweetness owes. Nothing could make the river be so crystal pure, but only she. She yet more pure, sweet, straight, and fair, than gardens, woods, meads, rivers are. Therefore, what first she on them spent, they gratefully again present. The meadow carpets were to tread, the garden flowers to crown her head, and for a glass the limpid brook, where she may all her beauties look. But since she would not have them seen, the wood about her draws a screen. For she to higher beauties raised, disdains to be for lesser praised. She counts her beauty to converse in all the languages as hers, not yet in those herself employs, but for the wisdom, not the noise. Nor yet that wisdom would affect, but as 'tis heaven's dialect. Blessed nymph, that couldst so soon prevent those trains by youth against thee meant, tears, watery shot that pierce the mind, and sighs, love's cannon charged with wind, true praise that breaks through all defence, and feigned complying innocence. But knowing where this ambush lay, she scaped the safe but roughest way. This 'tis to have been from the first in a domestic heaven nursed, under the discipline severe of Fairfax and the starry Vere, where not one object can come nigh but pure and spotless as the eye, and goodness doth itself entail on females, if there want a male. Go now, fond sex, that on your face do all your useless study place, nor once at vice your brows dare knit, lest the smooth forehead wrinkled sit. yet your own face shall at you grin through the black bag of your skin, when knowledge only could have filled, and virtue all those furrows tilled. Hence she, with graces more divine, supplies beyond her sex the line, and like a sprig of mistletoe on the Fairfaxian oak does grow, whence for some universal good the priest shall cut the sacred bud, while her glad parents most rejoice, and make their destiny their choice. Meantime, ye fields, springs, bushes, flowers, where yet she leads her studious hours, till fate her worthily translate, and find a Fairfax for our thwaites. Employ the means you have by her, and in your kind yourselves prefer, that, as all virgins she precedes, so you all woods, streams, gardens, meads. For you, Thessalian Tempe's seat, shall now be scorned as obsolete, Aranjuez as less disdained, the bel Retiro as constrained. But name not the Idalian grove, for 'twas the seat of wanton love, much less the dead's Elysian fields, yet nor to them your beauty yields. 'Tis not what once it was the world, but a rude heap together hurled, all negligently overthrown, gulfs, deserts, precipices, stone. Your lesser world contains the same, but in more decent order tame. You heaven's centre, nature's lap, and paradise's only map. But now the salmon fishers moist their leathern boats begin to hoist, and like Antipodes in shoes have shod their heads in their canoes. How tortoise-like, but not so slow, these rational amphibii go. Let's in, for the dark hemisphere does now like one of them appear.
End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.